For the majority of retirees and pre-retirees, Social Security election is a major decision. It will make up a significant part of most people's retirement income. And you may be aware that you can collect at different ages depending on your date of birth. For nearly everybody, you can collect as early as age 62. And for qualifying widowers, you can even collect earlier at age 60. But you can also delay your benefit up until age 70. Of course, you can also collect at your full retirement age, but you may be wondering, well, which one is right for me? That question is one that a lot of people have different opinions on, but there is a way that you can determine which one is right for you. And that's what we'll plan to do in today's video. What we'll cover today is just a brief intro into Social Security and the ages in which you can collect, and what are some of the implications if you decide to collect early, collect at your full retirement age, or decide to delay. But really, the purpose of today's video is to help you come up with a decision of whether or not you should consider collecting early or delaying. And it's not a universal answer that we like to give. We certainly think that each situation is going to vary, but there are some commonalities and some themes that we'll notice for different couples that they should be considering either delaying or collecting early. And by answering some of these questions, we'll be able to see a flow chart that's user-friendly and can help you make a better decision of when you should decide to collect your Social Security benefit. If we haven't met yet, my name is Cieniewicz, and I'm a CFP professional at Hyperion Financial. The information covered today in this video is general in nature and educational only. It isn't meant to be taken as any specific financial planning advice. What we'll want to do first is cover exactly when you are eligible to collect Social Security. For the majority of today's video, we're going to focus on your benefit specifically. We'll touch on the spousal benefit, but we primarily want to focus on workers that have the 40 quarters that are required of work history and that have their own Social Security benefit. And we'll talk through the decision tree of when you can and should consider collecting based on some of these answers. To start, there are 3 ages, which we mentioned at the outset, that you need to be considering. The first is if you decide to collect your benefit early. Generally speaking, the earliest that you can collect your benefit is going to be age 62. It's not uncommon that we hear individuals say, I want my money and I want it now, so I'm going to collect early. But unfortunately, that isn't always going to be the best option for everybody for a couple of reasons. The first reason being that if you decide to collect early, you are going to be taking significantly less than you would at your full retirement age. Depending on when you retire, it's an 8% decrease per year that you would decide to collect early. Depending on how early you decide to collect your Social Security benefit, let's say you decide to collect at age 62 when your full retirement age is age 66. What you'll notice is that age 62, you'll be eligible to collect 75% of what your full retirement age income would be projected to be. So notice that you're going to be taking an immediate pay cut if you decide to collect early. Another thing that you need to consider is by making this decision, you are putting yourself in position where you could be capping the ability to earn income and still be able to collect your Social Security benefit. What that means is prior to reaching full retirement age, if you're collecting Social Security, there is an earnings limit that you're able to collect each year. That earnings limit in the year 2024 is $21,240. If you decide to collect your Social Security benefit early and you're still working either part-time or full-time, what you'll notice is that after you reach that $21,240 of earned income, $1 of Social Security benefit will be withheld for every $2 that you earn. So as you can see, if you're making a substantial income, you can quickly see that most of your Social Security income could actually be phased out. What you may also notice is that in the year that you reach your full retirement age, if you're still collecting prior to reaching your actual full retirement age, the figures do go up. You're able to make $56,520 in the year 2024 without having any type of penalty associated with it. What you'll also notice is if you're making beyond that income figure, for every $3 that you make, $1 will be withheld. So you're able to earn a little bit more income without quite the penalty. But the question you need to ask is it still worth collecting early? The good news is once you reach your full retirement age, you are then in position where you can earn as much as you would like from part-time or full-time work without any type of earnings limit. You're no longer penalized if you go beyond a certain income limit. So that is an advantage to waiting until full retirement age if you plan to continue working. The other benefit, which should go without saying, is you do get 100% of your full retirement age income. You're not penalized in any way. But another thing to consider is actually delaying your benefit until age 70. And there are a couple reasons maybe why you may want to consider this, which we're going to get into in our decision tree. But if you're able to delay your benefit until age 70, what you'll notice is that you get an 8% guaranteed increase each year compared to your full retirement benefit. Depending on what your retirement age is, if it's age 66, 8% per year can get you to 132% of your full retirement age benefit. If your full retirement age is age 67, then it's 124%. These are the types of things that you need to be giving thought to, because the decisions that you make now will have an impact for the rest of your retirement. So let's go through some of the questions that we can look at. And depending on our answer, yes or no, we'll continue to follow the decision tree, which will ultimately give us an understanding of if you should consider collecting early, if you should consider delaying, or if there are other factors that you need to consider before you make your final decision. So the first question that we want to ask ourselves is, do I need the income now? If the answer is no, what we then want to do is move along to the third question. But if the answer is yes, we then need to ask ourselves, are there other sources of income that we can take? To be very clear, these other sources of income can come in different forms. For some people, they may enjoy the work that they do. They may want to continue working. They may also say, well, I no longer want to work at my current employer, but I've always had a dream job of doing something else, whether that's part-time or full-time work. If you're still able to bring in income, that's going to be a consideration. The other things that people need to consider when deciding if you need the income now is, number one, do you have your own voluntary savings? Have you saved in things such as a 401k, a Roth IRA, or another type of retirement savings vehicle? It can still also be non-qualified dollars that maybe you've saved into. But the question of, do I have other sources of income, can also include a pension. That could be something where you may be able to collect that early and not necessarily Social Security. More on that in another video, which I'm linking to right now. But in terms of deciding whether you should or should not collect early, that question of, do I have other sources of income, is a very important one to be able to answer. If that answer is no, you can consider collecting Social Security early, but with a pretty loud disclaimer, if I will. If you decide to collect Social Security early and you don't have other sources of income and you're not planning to work, you could be running into problems if you have only one source of income, which would be Social Security, and there's no other way in which you can bring in any type of income. The reason why that's important is if you decide to retire and collect at age 62, you stand the possibility of living quite some time into retirement. What we also have seen, especially in recent years, is that expenses do continue to go up. So if you're going to be deciding to collect early at age 62 without any other sources of income, whether that be earned income or through other sources such as a pension or retirement savings, you could be in a position where that Social Security income is not able to last very long after a number of years, where expenses continue to go up. Sure, you will get cost of living adjustments within Social Security, but it wouldn't be a good strategy to depend on that to continue to keep pace with some of the expenses that you may incur. If you answered no in the do I need income now question, or if you answered yes to the second question that you do have other sources of income, the next question that you need to ask yourself is a question of longevity. Now, I know you don't know how long you're going to live. If you knew that question, you'd obviously be able to plan much more accordingly. However, what we do have is at least an idea, and what we can do is come up with some level of a prediction of whether or not you'll project to live maybe longer than life expectancy, at or near life expectancy, or God forbid, you have a health issue that you won't be able to make it very long. While we don't have the answers to these questions, what we do have, though, are things that we can utilize to give us an idea of whether we should be planning for a longer retirement or potentially a shorter one. There's no shortage of longevity calculators out there on the web that you can check out. And by filling that out honestly and as detailed as you can, actuaries can do their best to predict how long you'll be able to live. Again, I wouldn't put too much stock into that you should plan for that exact date. But based on some of those factors and based on some of the longevity maybe within your family, that can give you an idea when it comes to saying, should I be preparing for a longer retirement or a shorter one? If you are not expecting to live very long in retirement, then it may be worth considering collecting early. This could be a situation where you may have run into a health issue or some type of chronic or terminal issue, which it would be worth collecting every dollar that you could out of Social Security, being that you've paid in all those years. It may also be the case where health is just not good and you may be predicting that you aren't going to live very long in retirement. But again, you want to be careful and certainly want to be more cautious than not, because if you do collect early and let's say you do happen to live longer than you're expected, then the similar issue could come up that we mentioned earlier, that you could be in a position where expenses continue to go up and your Social Security benefit is not keeping pace. If you do expect to live longer in retirement and you do have a longer life expectancy than maybe the normal, or at least you can make it to what would be projected as life expectancy, the next question that you should be asking yourself is, am I married? Now, I know that one's a lot easier to answer than the previous question, but why this is important is because a Social Security decision sometimes can have an effect on more than just one spouse. But let's first say you're not married, you're single. If you're a widower, what you can then say is, based on some of these answers, you should consider delaying in retirement if possible. If you have those other sources of income, whether that be through work or through other retirement savings or a pension, it's not a bad idea to continue to delay in order to make sure that you get that full retirement age income or better, and you're able to make sure that you're maximizing the amount that you're able to get from Social Security and to cover you over a longer term in the event that you do have a longer life expectancy. If you are married, the next question that you should be asking yourself is, what is your spouse's role in terms of bringing in some of the income as well from Social Security? You may be from a family where one spouse is the breadwinner and the other spouse was either a homemaker or maybe worked part-time. And what you could notice is that the benefit bases are far different from one spouse to another. For the higher income earner, what you need to be asking yourself is my spouse reliant on me in terms of the amount that I'm able to bring in? Will my Social Security decision have an effect on my spouse? And if the answer is yes, it's worth considering delaying for the following reason. If you predecease your spouse and you've collected early, this could present a problem, because if your spouse continues to live longer in retirement, what you would end up seeing is that your spouse would get the benefit that you were collecting. The longer that you wait, the higher that benefit. The earlier you collect, the lesser that benefit. So therefore, if you decide to collect early and you do pass away earlier in retirement than your spouse would notice that they would have a decreased benefit compared to if you continued delaying. If half of your benefit is greater than your spouse's benefit would be, they could collect on what's known as the spousal benefit option. And that spousal benefit option could be up to 50% of what your benefit is. And if that's the case, they could be collecting half of your benefit in addition to your benefit. Now, at your passing, your spouse would then be able to collect your benefit, and they no longer receive that extra 50% they were under the spousal benefit. So again, this decision does have implications if you decide to collect early or decide to delay. Now, we did discuss that you should consider waiting if it's determined that your spouse is reliant on your income. But what if your spouse is not reliant on your income? What if you found that both of you have a very similar earnings history, your full retirement ages are right around the same number, and your benefits are right around the same number? Well, that then allows you to have a little bit more flexibility to consider either collecting early, collecting at full retirement age, or delaying, and then having your spouse come up with a similar type of strategy where both of you are able to maximize your benefit. For spouses that are in this situation, it could be the case where one decides to collect at full retirement age while another decides to delay until age 70. That can benefit both spouses, because obviously if you decide to delay and you predecease your spouse, they would get the higher benefit. It's also a way in which if you decide to collect some of that benefit early or decide to collect it at full retirement age, both of you can share in some of the earnings that you would be had in the earlier years. It's rare that we would recommend that both spouses consider delaying until age 70. It's also rare that we would recommend that both spouses would just collect at full retirement age. Again, it depends on a bevy of factors, but if you found yourself to answering yes to all of these questions, what you may have found is that you're in position where you could come up with more of a strategy to come up with a maximization plan on your Social Security benefits for both you and your spouse. That's ultimately where the planning comes into play. And there are a number of other factors which you should be considering, but when it comes to maximizing your Social Security, these are the questions that you should be asking yourself. You've paid into Social Security over all this time. It's wise to make sure that you're getting out what you've been putting in. If you found this video to be insightful or helpful, please consider subscribing to make sure that you're able to get more information when it comes to making decisions on Social Security or retirement in general. My team and I at Hyperion Financial help pre-retirees and retirees with decisions just like these, and we help people come up with individualized plans to make sure that they're achieving their goals, but taking advantage of the different things that are available to them. You should also check out our website, hyperionfp.com, for more information, and that'll also show you where you can book a call if you'd like to talk specifically about your Social Security situation or retirement planning in general.